Okay, let's go ahead and call the meeting to order for the July 24th, 2018 Temecula City Council meeting. Good evening. First, I would like to thank Cheryl Ritzner. Did I get this correct? I think that's close enough. Close enough. Beautiful music this evening. Thank you for performing for us. And of course, as always, the lovely Susan Miyamoto. All right, our invocation tonight is going to be provided by Sylvester Scott of Bahias of Temecula. And Mr. Pro Tem Mike Nagar, if you could do the salute for us.
O thou forgiving God, these servants are turning to thy kingdom and seeking thy grace and bounty. O God, make their hearts good and pure, in order that they may become worthy of thy love. Purify and sanctify the spirits, that the light of the Sun of reality may shine upon them. Purify and sanctify the eyes, that they may perceive thy light. Purify and sanctify the ears, in order that they may hear the call of thy kingdom. O Lord, verily we are weak, but thou art mighty. Verily we are poor, but thou art rich. We are the seekers, and thou art the one sought. O Lord, have compassion upon us and forgive us. Bestow upon us such capacity and receptiveness that we may be worthy of thy favors and become attracted to thy kingdom, that we may drink deep of the water of life, may be enkindled by the fire of thy love, and be resuscitated through the breaths of the Holy Spirit in this radiant century. O God, my God, cast upon this gathering the glances of thy loving kindness. Keep safe each and all in thy custody and under thy protection. Send down upon these souls thy heavenly blessings. Immerse them in the ocean of thy mercy and quicken them through the breaths of the Holy Spirit. O Lord, bestow thy gracious aid and confirmation upon this just government. This country lieth beneath the sheltering shadow of thy protection, and this people is in thy service. O Lord, confer upon them thy heavenly bounty, and render the outpourings of thy grace and favor copious and abundant. Suffer this esteemed nation to be held in honor, and enable it to be admitted into thy kingdom. Thou art the powerful, the omnipotent, the merciful, and thou art the generous, the beneficent, the Lord of grace abounding.
Please face the flag with me. Say with me, I pledge
allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great, thank you. All right, let's go ahead and start with roll call, please.
Councilmember Comachero? Councilmember Edwards? Councilmember Nagar?
Aye.
Councilmember Stewart is absent. Mayor Run.
Good evening. All right, do we have any public comments this evening?
We do not.
Okay, well then, we will go ahead and skip that. And any city council reports this evening?
Quick one.
Mr. Comachero.
Just a quick one, Mr. Scott. Thank you, and thank you for being such a great neighbor of my wife and I for the last 25 years or so, whatever it's been. Appreciate you.
All right. right. Let's go ahead and move on to the consent calendar. All matters listed under consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one roll call vote. There will be no discussion of these items unless members of the City Council request specific items be removed from the consent calendar for separate action. Item number 1, waive reading of standard ordinances and resolutions. Number 2, approve action minutes of July 10, 2018. 3, approve list of demands. Number 4, adopt resolution to establish the amount of the voter-approved Measure C annual special tax levy for fiscal year 2018-19. 5, receive report regarding status of upcoming vacancies on boards and commissions. 6, approve a recycled water agreement with Rancho California Water District for recycled water service to the Temecula Park and Ride project site PW06-09. Number 7, approve a grant of easement for a portion of assessor's parcel number 922-036-043 Penny Pickles Workshop to Frontier Communications. And number 8, accept improvements and file the notice of completion for the Pavement Rehabilitation Program, Winchester Road, Jefferson Avenue to Inez Road, PW 10-13, federal project number STPL 5459024.
Move consent.
Second.
Motion and a second. Cast your votes. And with great fanfare, that passes 4-0 with Mr. Stewart absent. I'm going to go ahead and recess the meeting to the Temecula Community Services District.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I call this meeting of the Temecula Community Services District to order. Madam Clerk, why don't you go ahead and take the roll?
Director Edwards?
Here.
Director Nagar?
Here.
Director Ron?
Here.
Director Stewart is absent. President Comachero?
Okay, we have any public comment? No, then we only have one item under consent calendar. Item 9, approve the action minutes of July 10th.
Move approval.
Second.
Please cast your votes. That motion carries unanimously. We do have one public hearing item tonight, item 10 on the agenda, to approve Temecula Community Service District proposed rates and charges for fiscal year 2018-19. We have a staff report.
Sure. Good evening. The slideshow should come up. The Temecula Community Services District, which operates under the authority of Community Services District law, provides a variety of services to city residents, including residential street lighting, perimeter landscape, slope maintenance, recycling, refuse collection, and unpaved road maintenance within the city of Temecula. These services are collectively referred to as TCSD's service levels. Property owners only pay for the TCSD services used or made available to their property through separate charges on their property tax bills. Each of these service levels have separate rates and charges that are calculated by the city's consulting firm, Albert A. Webb Associates, and are detailed in the engineer's annual levy report. At tonight's public hearing, staff is requesting the board to adopt the rates and charges established for each service level for fiscal year 2018-19. Rates for service levels B, residential street lighting, and service level R, unpaved road maintenance, are proposed to remain unchanged from the current rates of $25.68 for street lighting and $115.26 for the unpaved road maintenance per single-family residence per year. Rates for service level C, or perimeter landscaping and slope maintenance, are proposed to remain unchanged from the current year for 27 of the 29 service zones. Through property owner elections, 2 of the 29 zones include an annual inflator equal to the lesser of CPI, or 5%. For fiscal year 18-19, the rates for these 2 zones reflect the 2.79% CPI increase as noted in the table. Rates for service level D, or residential recycling and refuse services, are calculated annually per the franchise agreement with CR&R. For fiscal year 18-19, the rate is proposed to increase $9.76 to a rate of $281.52 per household per year. The rate increase is a result of CPI and landfill tipping fee increases per the franchise agreement. Per Proposition 218, the TCSD Board of Directors approved a resolution of intention on May 22nd, calling for the public hearing to be held tonight. Additionally, all property owners were mailed notifications of this public hearing on June 7th, detailing the proposed rates and charges. The anticipated revenue for all service levels is $10,369,386, as noted in the 2018-19 Engineers Annual Levy Report. This concludes my report, and staff, along with Web Associates, are available for any questions you might have.
Thank you, Jennifer. Any questions from the council? Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing. Do we have any speakers? Then we will quickly close the public hearing.
To move it, move it.
In a second, then, to approve rates and charges, please cast your vote. That does carry unanimously with Councilmember Stewart absent. Do we have a report from the esteemed Mr. Hawkins
Ooh, the
this evening?
esteemed, well, maybe from me, but, Mr. President, just a quick reminder, on Thursday and Friday, check out the sights and sounds of summer with our last concert and movie for the summer season. If you can't make it, if you can't make it, really, you can always enjoy O-Town live on Fridays and Saturdays through September 1st. And that, Mr. President, concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Mr. Adams, General Manager's report.
Nothing further tonight, Mr.
Move
President.
adjournment.
A motion and adjourn, and a second to adjourn. Any objection?
One. Just one.
No.
I'm gonna object. Hang on a second.
Is adjourned on a 3-to-1 vote with Mayor
3-to-1
Ron
vote.
dissenting.
Oh, man. Well, we'll restart the.
That'll teach you.
That'll teach me. I just wanted to, before he leaves the room, thank Mr. Breakovich in the back there from CR&R for coming out. Quality group you guys have, and just the fact that, a lot of this stuff is somewhat perfunctory, but you guys do a quality job in our city, and the fact that you're here tonight, just in case we needed anything from you is outstanding as always, so pass on my regards to CR&R for me. Yep. All right, and we will move back to what looks like the Temecula Public Finance Authority meeting. Can we go ahead and run the roll call real quick on that, please?
Director Comachero?
Here.
Director Edwards?
Here.
Director Nagar?
Here.
Director Stewart is absent. Chair Ron?
Do we have any public comment?
We do not.
So then, what we have tonight on the calendar is item 11, under consent, authorize fiscal year 2018-19 special tax levies for Community Facilities District.
And all subsequent resolutions associated with it, if there's no speakers.
Second.
All right. No speakers on the issue. Please cast your votes. And that passes 4-0 with Mr. Stewart absent. All right. Do we have an executive director report?
Nothing tonight.
Any directors? All right. I
Move
will.
adjournment.
And any objections, Mr. Comachero?
No objections, Mr.
All
Mayor.
right. Let's go ahead to reconvene the city council meeting for this evening. Item number 12 is receive and file pavement management program update, and I believe we have a report this evening.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'd like to introduce to you Mr. Stephen Smith from Infrastructure Management Services, or IMS, who prepared our comprehensive pavement management program update and report. He'll be presenting the report and findings to you. Also like to introduce Mr. Chris White in the audience here, who is Associate Engineer with the City's Public Works Department and was Project Manager for this project. Mr. Smith, take it away.
Thank you kindly. Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you for having me here tonight. I very much appreciate it. Second run at it. But before I begin, I wanted to thank you and for allowing me the opportunity 4 weeks ago to sit through a rather long meeting. But it was an excellent example of local government at its finest. I really, really appreciated it, and the way you folks handled that was outstanding. Very interesting for me. Tonight, we get to talk about your roads. It's a pretty dry topic. Hopefully nobody will fall asleep during the presentation. Let's see if this works. Whenever I'm making a presentation like this, I like to talk about the scale of investment, let folks know what they're up against. Your roads are probably your single largest visible asset, about 325 centerline miles of road, about 5.5 million square yards of pavement. That is a big, big ticket item. Total value, just over $350 million. If I broke that down to the household level, we're talking an investment of about $11,000 per household, or about $3,200 per person. So when you get right down to it, managing a roadway network is personal, and it is up to you folks to do a good job of it, and you do. If I had to look at your results, an early look at your results, I'm going to give you a solid A-. It would be an A, but there's a few things down the road I'm going to talk about, kind of moved a few points from you. Your PCI score, that's your Pavement Condition Index, it's a 65, very healthy. It's measured on a scale of 100. If you fell below about a 60, I'd be a little worried. So 65, got a little wiggle room there. Good job on that. Concept of pavement management. Why am I here? The biggest reason I'm here is to sort of educate you folks on what you're up against. What I'm not here to do is to try and tell you how to run your roadway network. That's up to you folks to decide. So in my perspective, pavement management is kind of a blend of hearing your objectives and understanding your policies, giving you a good, strong understanding of the condition of your roadway network, and then coming up with some priorities, a bit of budgeting, and let you know what direction I think you should go and how much money you should be setting aside to take care of your roadway network. Tools to rate the streets. That's the van we used right there, Laser Road Surface Tester. The main point about it is it gives you an objective scoring on all your roads. It wasn't a bunch of folks just walking around and say this road's a B or something like that. It followed a fixed set of rules, and we took a holistic view of the entire right-of-way and all the pavement down the middle. On your arterial roadway network, we went and tested them for strength, see how they're going to be carrying all your commercial traffic. They came out fairly good. At the end of the day, we come up with an objective rating. We submit it to some priorities and analysis protocols and come up with a budget. The other things that the little van there does, it provides us a good point in time and gives your engineering staff a pretty good trace of where all the roads you own are actually at, in addition to letting you know the condition of them. Along with the pavements, we also took a snapshot of your curb and gutter and your signs. So now your folks have those databases to start managing as well. Understanding the PCI score, the Pavement Condition Index. At the bottom of the pile are the streets rated as very poor. I used to use the word failed, but then I got told by a few council members, oh, don't call our roads failed, they're just very poor. These are the roads that need a bit of love. You can see on the lower right-hand side of that image there, that road has pretty well had the biscuit. If you went and put an overlay on top of that, it might last a few years. So that road really falls into the full reconstruction category.
Bingo Oaks Drive?
You know the street?
Yes.
Uh-oh. The reason why I highlight this is these are the streets that are most often subjected to deferral for reconstruction. Due to their high cost and quite often low usage when they're local, they become candidates for deferral. We try and free up some money, move it to some other places. That process is often overridden by safety issues or citizen complaints. To me as an engineer, that's something we have to respect, but you folks up on council there, you're the ones going to get the phone calls. So we kind of have to be in tune with this deferral program to make sure that it is what Temecula wants. Next on the list are the roads rated as poor. These ones are nearing the end of their service life, but if we get them and get them at the right time, we can go in there and do a grind and inlay and greatly extend their service life without that full reconstruction. So these are the ones we give a high priority to. If you look at the next few roads, these ones get more of a, I'll call it a second tier priority. They're getting close to the end of the service life, the street at the top there. You can see if we did a bit of patching, we could certainly give that one a good overlay. The lower left photo, just take care of a few locals things, put something on top of it, we'd get good service life out of these. In the good category, these are the streets where most of Temecula falls into. If we went in there and did some crack sealing, some local patching, I think we could do some surface treatment, some chip seal types or microsurfacing, and the folks of Temecula would like it. You would be lowering their costs for roadway repair and give them quite a few extra years out of life. So these ones actually rise in their priority for us to tackle. We kind of want to go at it with a two-pronged approach. Get those ones that we can salvage with an overlay, and these ones that we can tackle with a lightweight surface treatment. So there's some other costs involved in this thought process. We're not using as many renewable resources on these roads, less intrusive type rehab, so we're not disturbing the community as much. We get to maintain the existing drainage. So there's a lot of benefits to this thought of preventative maintenance or lighter weight rehab as opposed to just the traditional mill and fill. The good and the very good, or the very good and the excellent roads, these are the ones that are like new in their condition, bit of crack sealing, and they will serve us for many, many years, not too high on the old priority list. Any amount of minor rehab work would greatly enhance their pavement life. So right at this moment, this snapshot in time, Temecula has a pretty good base of these roads from which to launch the next 5 years of pavement management. Come on, jump ahead. There we go. If I plotted up your pavement distribution in little groups of 10 with pavement condition on the bottom and percentage of your roadway network, that is what I would call a textbook distribution. The blue line is kind of like an average of what I find across this country, and you folks fall right into it. And that's a good thing. It means you have many, many strengths from which to work from. So nothing really jumped out of there as bad to me. And if I start looking at your scorecard, remember at the beginning I gave you an A-. Well, here are the things that I look at. The first one is your average condition score is a 65. Nationwide, I usually see cities between a 60 and a 65. So you're at the upper end of that level. That's a good thing. If you've ever traveled into a city that is below a 60, you know it. The streets are tired looking. It becomes a really slippery slope to let that PCI score drop. So we want to keep you firmly up around a 65, a good healthy score. To put it in perspective, our friends down in Carlsbad, they're in the upper 70s. Beverly Hills, upper 70s. The highest I've ever come across is Flower Mound, Texas, and The Colony, Texas, both scored at 80. So there's room for improvement upwards. There's certainly a lot below us, though. So you folks on your PCI score, you get the check mark. The more important one is the backlog. That's the very poor and the poor streets. Your current backlog is about 9% of your roadway network. Those are the streets that need heavier intervention, either in a full reconstruct or a pretty thick grind and inlay. I want to see that number at least below a 12%, preferably closer to 10. At about 15%, I'm going to put you on blood pressure medication, and at 20%, we've pretty well lost the battle. It will tend to snowball on us. So that's the number we really have to watch, is our backlog. The third metric I evaluate cities on is the minimum target of 15% in the excellent rated category. You met that hands down. And the reason why I look for that, it shows annual reinvestment in your roadway network. Someone's taking their roads seriously and putting that money into them. So all three metrics met. One of them just snuck in there, the backlog, but overall, very good score. Come on, there we go. If I drew you up in a map, that's a color-coded map there. The actual report has larger versions of it, and there's some electronic ones available. What I see in that map is a lot of green. It is colored like a traffic signal. Red is bad, green is good. There's a few areas up in the northwest part of town there that need a bit of love, some more in the central area, but overall, excellent distribution of quality across the whole city. There's not real defined pockets where you've been ignoring. So that's a good thing. I've seen some agencies where you could literally trace lines around council districts for between good and fair. I didn't see that here, and so that's something I would like to commend the city and something I would suggest they follow up with. Setting some minimum targets to move forward, I would like to see you keep your PCI score at a minimum of 65, if not better. Keep your backlog below 12%, closer to 10, do my heart good. One of the things that did give me a bit of a pause, and this is where you lost your A rating down to an A-, is some of the pavement strength on your arterials didn't quite make the grade. Each red dot in that graph there represents a city block. And those ones that fall into that blue rectangle on the right-hand side of the plot represent streets that look good, ride well, but aren't strong enough. And those are ones that are going to come back and bite us over time. So I would like to suggest to Public Works that over the next while they review some of their development standards and some of their practices to make sure that we get more of those streets out of that area and above that black diagonal line representing a good, strong, healthy road. So that's where you lost your grade point on, was on pavement strength. Rehabilitation needs and priorities. This is a complex graph. Took a while to develop. PCI score along the bottom, structural strength along the y-axis, and all the little grids there represent different rehab actions. But the ones I've highlighted there in green and yellow, those are the priorities that I suggest Temecula tackle first. They're not the worst. They're not the best. They're kind of right in the middle there. From an engineering perspective, that's the way to go. We base our planning on the cost of deferral, meaning that if we don't get it done this year, it's going to cost way, way much more next year. So a thick overlay can very quickly become a full reconstruction. So from an engineering or a finance perspective, looking at the roadway network from that point of view is bulletproof. But from you folks up on the council here, it's dynamite. Because the next priority are those surface treatments. And that means the person who's sitting on the road with a PCI score of 20, they're going to see you working on roads that might have a score in the 40s, might even be up in the 60s or 70s if you're doing some surface treatment work. And they're going to phone you up and say, hey, you're doing the wrong roads. Mine's way worse. But there is a process to this, there is a plan, and there are rationale to doing it this way, all in the names of saving the city of Temecula money in the long run. If you adopt this plan, it is the one that provides you with the greatest cost benefit over the long term. Doesn't help you tomorrow. We're always looking 5, 10 years ahead. So when the phone calls start coming in, they can go to Mr. Thomas then. We'll blame him. He's the one who engaged us. But that is the plan I'm recommending for you, but I want to make sure I highlight it to you that it's not worst first what some people think it should be. That is probably the most cost inefficient. We went with the greatest cost benefit. In our planning, we said, well, we need to make sure the arterials get taken care of first, then the collectors, then the locals. Again, it's all based on the cost of deferral. So the graph behind shows you that's how we went and did it. And basically, you can let a road slide from a thin overlay to a thick. You pay a penalty of a few bucks a square yard. But if it slides too far into total reconstruct, it's like an 8-fold increase in costs. So again, phone calls are going to flow your way. This graph is one of the, yeah, I'm an engineer and I like plotting things up, so I'll walk you through it. The x-axis along the bottom is the amount of funding every year for the next 5 years in millions of dollars. So right in the center there is 5,000, and that represents $5 million. Along the y-axis is the average network condition score, and the blue diagonal line is the result of about 50 analysis runs, and that is unique to Temecula. And what this graph tells me is the red line, called the current PCI, or steady state score. In order to maintain your condition at its existing 65, you need about $7.3 million per year. In order to maintain your backlog at its current rate of about 9%, you need slightly over $9 million per year. Not cheap, those are big numbers. If you had to ask me what my recommendation was, split it right up the middle, $8 million and change. To maintain the minimums, to keep the PCI at a 65 or above, you're looking at about $7 million a year. So all these numbers are coming together. Your budget is going to be between $7 and $8 million per year for the next 5 years. And if I'm not mistaken, you're in the $5 to $6 million range.
We're actually a little higher than that for the next few years. That is based on some current funding sources that we have available to us that we may not have in future years, but we're in the
getting
range that
close.
you're recommending for the time being.
I like to hear that because more often than not, I'm sitting up front here and you're down like 25, 30% funding. So this is a good news presentation. All in all, the numbers are pointing to $7 to $8 million per year for the next few years. Everyone always asks me, well, what happens if we don't fund it at that? And I said, well, think of your roadway network as an ATM machine. You go up, take money out of it. At the end of the day, you got to make it whole again. That's how your roadway network is. If you're underfunding the network, removing equity from it, sooner or later, someone has to pay that back. So at your steady state budget of $7.3 million, at the end of 5 years, I would hand you back a network with a PCI score of 65. Perfect. But if you were underfunding it, say at the $4 million level, well, your cost over 5 years would be $20 million, but you would also remove $25 million of equity from the system that has to be paid back. So your total is closer to $45 million as opposed to the $37 you would under the steady state. So you would in fact be throwing away about $1.6 million per year. And I'm talking about open up the window, toss the money out. What I'm trying to communicate here is the best play for us is to follow the steady state or recommended budgets. It's the one that sets the city of Temecula up on a good financial plan for the next 5, 10 years. If you followed it, there's the recommended $8.2, $8.3 million plan. That's just a sampling of the streets that would get selected. And you can see all the things I've just talked about coming through right now. There's more arterial and collector roads selected than locals. That's good. Those are what drive the economy, higher speeds, need safer roads. The local roads that get selected, they're the ones that need it the most. So it's a good balance. It's equitable across the city, and it gives everybody a little bit of everything. So I don't expect you to follow that plan to every street, to every year. This is just our best suggestion for you. If we hit 3/4 of the selections, touchdown. So take that as a recommendation. Mr. Thomas will be able to fine-tune it over the next few years, perhaps change it all totally. But it's what we need to be looking towards. That's what it would look like. If you remember that map earlier, lots of red up in the northwest, pretty well all gone. Maybe one little, over on the west side of town there, one loop still in the red. But it means that we're taking care of the roadway network. We're being good stewards of that asset. We're doing our homework. This is one question that I keep getting asked, well, where are we going to get the money for this long-term funding of our roadway network? I like to view it as it's an investment, not an expense. So the piece of advice I like to leave with everyone is pavements have to be thought of as a utility, something where a monthly bill is sent out or it's an ongoing investment to take care of their roads. As long as roads have to compete with the big ticket items like fire and safety, they're going to come up a little short. So we have to move it towards a utility. I noticed there was the council district, one of them was recycling and collection fees. Very affordable. This is one I always like to point out, is we do a lot of garbage collection, solid waste impact fee studies, and those wonderful little trucks account for between 30 and 40% of the costs on the local roadway network. And I don't see that reflected in the solid waste fees very often. That could translate anywhere from $20 to $30 a month itself. So if I'm getting my trash collected for $25 a month, that's a great value to me. I know that it's not taking care of my roads, though. So that's one I like to leave you with. A few cities, we've done some solid landscaping cost analysis, and we usually it hovers around about a penny per square foot of solid landscaping would take care of most of their roadway needs. There we go. Parking utility, never very popular, but I'm always astounded that where's it written that cities have to provide free parking? I know there's a give and take between the business community, but I've seen cities with really bad roads and businesses don't want to be there. I've seen cities with really good roads and they do want to be there, and the price of that is the parking fee. I think there's a trade-off there. Referendum-based sales tax, as long as it's dedicated to payments, I see that all the time, and I support that one. Not so much on the property tax assessments. It gets a little high, $25 a month per household. The one I really not a fan of is any solution for long-term funding of streets that involves bonding. To me, that's just like trying to pay off your credit cards with another credit card. It just doesn't work. So I've seen it lots, and we've helped a lot of cities with bonding, but I just say do it with caution. Not a fan of the bonding. Let's wrap it all up. Here's some recommendations. I would like to see a suggestion where the city adopts a policy saying, yeah, let's maintain that PCI score at a 65 and keep our backlog below 12%, preferably 10, but we'll accept the 12. $8.2 million a year will do that. If that's a little too high, let's go with that steady state one. That would keep our PCA score at about a 65, but our backlog would creep up to that 12% maximum, so not quite as good. We're shredding a bit of backlog there. I suggest you visit that 5-year plan that we provided, make some local changes to it. I would like to leave it with you that steady, effective, routine maintenance, good crack sealing, good slurry treatments, is good practice. Carlsbad down the street are probably the leaders in this area for extending the life of a pavement. Those folks will patch 15 to 20% of the road and then put a good slurry on it. Very, very effective. I'd like to see another survey done in a few years, give you a scorecard how you're doing, and with that, I'm open for any questions, comments, anything I can do for you folks.
All right, any questions? No,
I'm out of here then.
Good.
I have a whole bunch. No, actually, just a couple quick ones.
problem.
Some of these are mostly, I think, directed toward you, Pat. But annual analysis, reporting, warehousing of data, tracking, and all that. Are you guys set up to do all that?
Yes, as a matter of fact, the results of the study, we'll be getting that in a database format. We'll be able to keep that database and update it as we do the rehab projects that we complete, and then that'll reflect the higher scores when the roads are rehabbed that we're working on, yes.
Okay. And then as roads are repaired, and you've presented like the equivalent of a 5-year plan if we wanted to use this strategy. 5-year plan, and year one we take care of 20% of what's on our list, and then somewhere in between year one and year two we end up with a massive rain event that damages roads that we didn't expect and other issues that pop up. So from sort of, I like to refer to it as an adaptive management strategy. How fluid is this system to be able to adjust?
We can adjust it in a heartbeat. Mr. Thomas would give us a call, we'd reset our priorities. There might be other events. Let's just say you score a new Tesla plant and you say, oh, we got to make sure that's taken care of. All that can be addressed. They have the tools, the wherewithal to take care of it, and we can certainly help you with it. If there's a bad event, we can react to that as well. It just delays, but a deferral will be okay. Abandonment of the plan, not so good.
Right. And then as more folks start to call your office, Pat.
I gave him your phone number, actually.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, as more folks start to call by, is there a not 20-minute version of this that helps folks understand why their road isn't on year 1 and pushed off to year 5?
Well, we can certainly tell them what the index or the rating of the road is, and that would give them an idea of where it will fall in a more, global type of priority system, yes.
Well, and I guess maybe more what I'm saying is I wonder if it wouldn't be, if we're, this is just a receive and file right now, and so if we're going to adopt this as a policy for the city, then at some point, I think it would be great to sort of adopt, a quick guideline or tools for folks, and maybe even, an online opportunity for them to look up their street and see, where they are in that. So, we don't want to set false expectations because things change and shift over time, and I understand that. But at the same time, something that helps folks understand, a little bit more simply, and even for myself, how these numbers are derived.
Yeah, and just to, I guess, maybe kind of simplify a little bit of some of the things that Mr. Smith was explaining. The program really kind of is two-pronged, like he said. We have the overlay and the kind of the reconstruction program for the arterials, but our program for the residential streets is really more of a resurfacing type of program, more of a preventative maintenance type of program. And we're attempting to basically do that kind of work on a cyclical basis. So say every 6 to 8 years, we will do every street. We'll slurry seal every residential street, say every 6 to 8 years or something along those lines. So one of our plans is to, as we're developing this program, establish kind of what those zones are and how we'll be cycling or circling back to those zones, say like every 6 to 8 years. So we will have a program of that nature as well for the residential streets.
Okay. And then, Mr. City Manager, a quick one for you, and maybe Mr. Butler too, is I don't think we have a subcommittee specific to transportation or roadways, do we? Or something that this might fit under? Only because, what you presented toward the end is, there has to be a financial strategy along with this, prioritization scheme. And so it seems to me that maybe that might be the most efficient way to sort of address this and bring it forward. And not that I don't know if we need to recreate a committee on this or not, but, this is just receive and file at this point.
Yeah.
But maybe we could bring something back and chat a little bit more offline on, the best strategy to help you guys implement this as efficiently as possible.
Sure, of course, but we do have a Public Works Notice Subcommittee, and the way we intend to use this data is in line with how we make our recommendations and priorities every year as we build this capital improvement budget and present that to the City Council. So now we have some updated data that will really drive the resources that we have and the recommendations that we'll be bringing forward to you in the spring of 19. So we've been doing this every year for 20 years. We just needed to get this data to sort of validate, I believe, the conditions of our current conditions. And just on a side note, with the carryover dollars that from 17-18 to 18-19, we're proposing to invest probably closer to $9 million this fiscal year in the road network, which is fantastic. It's not something that we can probably do for the next 5 years, but we're going to make a huge investment in this coming year. And the other thing that I want to mention is Proposition 6 is on the ballot in November. Now, we, the city of Temecula, stand to benefit from that greatly if that stays intact. That will generate about $1.8 million a year for pavement management. So that's a revenue stream to Temecula and all cities that are going to want to reinvest in their road network, and that potentially is in jeopardy as well. So it's my little commercial for that. So.
All right. Anything else? All right. Well, Stephen Pyle, thank you so much for
Kindly for letting me
doing this, and
to talk to
thank you, for your patience a couple of weeks ago and coming back.
That was my pleasure as well.
All right.
Thank you, folks.
All right, moving on, we have board commission reports. Let's go ahead and start with Mr. Sullivan.
Yes, briefly, our commission will be meeting Thursday at 6 p.m. in these chambers, and we'll be getting reports from staff on the pros and cons of crosswalks here in Old Town, and some new types of crosswalks that are out that enhance and improve safety. So we'll look at those, and our recommendations will be sent on to you for final decision. One last thing, if Dean from PD and Matt could just stick around a minute after the meeting, I'd just like to chat with you. Thank you.
Good evening.
Hello. How fun, right? So fun. I happen to be on the subcommittee for short-term rentals, and so I was able to go to one of the meetings a couple weeks ago at the library. And I just wanted to encourage the community out there to share their voice in this matter, because I think it's a really good way to have a conversation about this situation. And I was just, it was a good meeting, the one that I happened to be at, and heard a lot of different perspectives. And so I think it would be valuable to the community to attend at least one of these meetings. So just an encouragement to do that. And the next one is tomorrow night at Luceño Elementary. So I plan on being there. It's close to my house. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schwank.
Good evening, Mayor Ron. Nothing from Community Services tonight.
What?
No videos, no fun PowerPoints or anything like that.
Stunning. Okay. Well, that said, public safety. Good evening. What do we have from you?
Something like that. This evening, we're going to present a video. Many of you know that the city funds the Sheriff's Homeless Outreach Team, and their primary goal is to reach out to the homeless and try to reduce the homeless population in the city. So the city, the PD, in conjunction with your IT department, created a video, and I'd like you guys to see it. So if we could play that, that would be awesome.
The City of Temecula works closely with many community stakeholders, including our law enforcement partners, who work closely with those experiencing homelessness in our community. Hi, I'm Robin Gilliland with the City of Temecula. Today I'd like to introduce you to our homeless outreach team.
Hello, I'm Officer Ibram with the Temecula Police Homeless Outreach Team.
Officer Todd Johnson with the Temecula Police Department Homeless Outreach Team.
Hi, I'm Officer Garcia with the Temecula Police Department Homeless Outreach Team.
The Homeless Outreach Team has recently been expanded to 4 members, which allows us greater saturation in problem areas and more coverage for offering resources and outreach. Over the past several years, we've reunited numerous people throughout the country with family members willing to take them in, as well as connecting veterans with resources.
The Homeless Outreach Team assists homeless with trying to get their IDs, Social Security cards, DMV IDs, so we can link the resources that are available to them.
One of the ways we're helping private property owners is by consulting with them and letting them know how they can design their property in a way that's not conducive to homeless activity, such as locking up trash enclosures, clearing up bushes, and keeping areas well lit.
For any emergencies, please dial 911. To report any illegal camping, debris, or aggressive solicitation, you can report it on the city's webpage or download the city's mobile app.
The City of Temecula recently opened the Temecula Help Center, located on Pujol Street. We are here to help those at risk of homelessness as well as any at-risk population. Please visit us for help on Tuesdays or Thursdays from 9 to 4.
And that's all I got.
All right. Fantastic. Thank you, sir. All right. Do we have a city manager's report?
Nothing further tonight.
And city attorney?
Tonight we had a closed session, but we have no reportable actions from the closed session.
All right. Well, and all those in favor? Aye. All right. We will see you next time.